Oh, snap! It's another Snap review from the Family Gamers.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Do 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 do.
This is not Sesame Street, though.
This is a Snap review for King of 12.
King of 12 is a short tactical game for 2 to 4 players using dice and cards. It's designed by Rita Modl, best for ages 10 and up.
It was brought to the United States by Lucky Duck Games. So let's talk about the art in King of 12.
The art here was created by Robin Legafin. It has a really elegant feel with lots of white space on the cards and subtle variations that distinguish the different player decks.
I love the art style and the art design in this game. The amount of white space really accentuates all the detail in the richly colored characters, and it makes the game seem incredibly elegant. Especially since the cards are large. They're tarot-sized cards. So even though the characters are small compared to the size of the card, you can still see lots and lots of detail on them.
The only quibble we have with the art at all is that the text about what cards do are a little small compared to everything else.
So let's talk about how to play King of 12. Let's discuss the mechanics.
So every player has a 12-sided die. At the beginning of a round, all players roll their die. Unless a card changes it, you're not going to touch your die again until the next round. Now that you have your dice all settled, every player chooses a card from their hand.
Everyone reveals simultaneously, and anybody who plays matching cards, those cards cancel out, and they don't affect this hand.
Any cards that didn't get canceled, apply the card effects. There's a little bit of ordering information on the cards. Some cards affect the die values. Some affect the dice themselves, so you'll be rotating or rolling dice. And some affect the win conditions of the hand.
One card, the Knight, for example, makes the lowest die value win that round instead of the highest.
After any cards have been applied, now you compare die values. If any match, guess what?
You cancel them out.
The winning value of the hand gets a 2-point chip, and the runner-up gets a 1-point chip.
When any player has only one card left in their hand, or if one player has 8 points worth of chips, the round ends. Compare chip values. Guess what?
If any 2 players have the same chip values, they cancel out. The highest remaining chip value wins the round. The person who won the round picks a card from their hand to permanently lay down on the table, marking that they have won a round.
Then, all players gather their cards. Finally, they get to roll their dice again, and you start a new round.
A game of King of 12 ends when some player has won 2 rounds. So let's talk about what we expected in this game.
We talked about the elegance of the art. Even the box itself has this gorgeous spot varnish on it that in the right light you realize there's way more detail to the box cover.
In playing the game itself, there's not a lot on the table at any one time. Every player has 1 die and 1 card that gets shown. The majority of the game is actually about trying to outwit your opponents, trying to predict what they're going to do, and then decide if you want to cancel it, or modify it, or get around it somehow.
But there's also a memory component to this game. And we're going to talk about that with our surprises. I did not expect there to be a memory component here. It helps you to remember what cards everybody has played and also factor that into what you were saying before. This is a mental game where you're trying to outwit your opponents.
Yes, since any card from your hand can only be played once in a round, it's really going to benefit you to keep track of major game changer cards and whether or not they've been played by the other players.
That leads to the other big surprise with this game, which is this repeating effect of canceling matches. It happens with cards, it happens with die values, and it even happens with point totals at the end of a round. The matching thing really changes dynamics a lot, and it can really make for fascinating turnarounds. It also means, just like you were saying, there's some real game changer cards, but if 2 people go for it at the same time, you have completely wasted that card.
On the flip side, you're always able to try to match cards with somebody else to make sure that that effect doesn't get used.
Exactly. I mentioned the Knight before. If you have a high point value die face and someone else has a low one, you may expect that they're going to play the Knight to try to steal that round. So since you can rely on your die face to be valuable on its own, you might play your Knight to attempt to cancel someone out.
So all of this makes for a really interesting back and forth, but it can also be really, really frustrating if two players are just too well in sync with each other. I've played games where 3 or 4 hands in a row, I just feel like I'm not making any headway or any progress because I'm just getting canceled out again and again and again.
And that really leads to the game within the game of trying to outwit your opponent by knowing what they're going to do and then doing something different. There's also a ton of replayability in this box because there are starting card sets that you begin the game with, but there's a lot of alternate cards you can add in and say, ooh, and play all of those various things as well. So that's really, really fun.
You can play King of 12 with 2 players, but it's not great. It's not bad, but you end up doing a lot of canceling each other or a lot of trading back and forth, like, oh, this time I got 2 points and you get 1, and next time I get 1 and you get 2. And then we match points, and then the round didn't mean anything, and we just need to keep going again and again. It's a much better game at 3 or 4, and I would say probably if you want to feel like you're always making progress in the game, it's probably best at 3 players.
So King of 12 at its core is a social deduction game. It's got some of these extra mechanics in it, and the die certainly makes things really interesting. Obviously, the game is King of 12. The dice are 12-sided dice. It's intended to be the focus of the game.
You and I don't usually like social deduction games, but having the die as the focus for having a concrete goal, I want to win, I want to get my die value high, or possibly low, really helped mold this social deduction game into something that we could really enjoy.
If you don't like social deduction, this could be something that you might be interested in checking out because it has this extra element to it. I would really have liked to have seen this at a higher player count. The price point on the game is inexpensive. It's under $25. I think that this game, if it could have supported 6 players, could have gone to a $30 price point and it would have been okay. And I think there would have been a little bit more dynamics in it. Because like you said, at 2 players, it's really not much of a game. 3 to 6, I think, could have been better if the materials were in the box.
Yeah, I would say we highly recommend this game at 3, recommended it 4, it's playable at 2. Speaking of recommendation, what do you think we should rate King of 12?
With everything that we've discussed, especially since we really feel like this game is kind of limited to a 3 or 4 player count, we're going to give King of 12 3.5 die rolls out of 5.
And that's King of 12 in a snap.